Yeah, just shared it. So if you could just, if you can, take a look at your my Facebook page, and if you'd like to share it to your
Yeah,
share.
just shared it. So if you could just, if you
I
can,
mean,
take a look at your
I have
my
to.
Facebook page, and if you'd like to share it to your.
There we go. And you can certainly come back on. You can open up your cameras and unmute yourselves. And this, let me make sure that it's on there. Boy. Beautiful. And of course, I'm going to edit this before I post it on the official. Just one minute. Edit post. Here we go. Okay, it looks really good. Okay, so here we go. Well, up there's Ralph, our co-host. Let's let him in. Ralph, you there? Oh, he just popped out. We're going to start. Welcome to RenéMarie Stroke of Luck. I'm RenéMarie. What an incredible show it's going to be for various reasons. You know, first of all, I want to give gratitude to, first of all, I want to send our heartfelt condolences to Kelly Clarkson and her family. It's surreal what happens in life. And this program really shines light on those that want to help those that are ill. From what we read and understand, that Kelly Clarkson's former husband and father of her children had cancer for 3 years. So this show ties right into that world of caring for people when they're ill and they need somebody. And our two guests today really have a backstory to share that really shines light on the fact that there are people out there that care and really want to take care of people, not for the money, for just the heartfelt empathy and that they have. And to lead the way, Diane Bromberg is just an incredible individual. She's a part of our organization. Everybody knows that she's a part of our foundation, but the unselfishness that she shows to the world and just to help people is really an incredible you know life that she's lived, and she really does help people. So thank you, Diane, for bringing us together, Jim and Kevin. And I really want to personally thank Kevin and Jim because they're sponsoring our comedy show, which is in October with Jeff Norris. Please go to our website and get tickets if you'd like to come and see Jeff Norris. He is an incredibly funny guy, and I think just in life you need to have some humor to brighten your days, and to although we can't forget about the harshness, and not the harshness, but the life difficulties that we're all suffering from. We can shine a little light and have a little humor in our lives. And so that being said, I really want to thank them. And I really want to also thank the Wanakee Reserve for really giving me 10 years of practicing and formating and really crafting my performing and my lifestyle skills, in that arena of the community of Wanakee Reserve. They're really a blessing. They taught me so many things. And of course, Dominic Cordelesa, who used to be the board president, really is a confidant of mine. But that being said, the whole Wanakee Reserve, the whole community has really helped me to sing and to just craft my performing. I remember having happy hours for 2 hours, and we'd have 250 people just come out and really have joy and have a wonderful life. And I really created a lot of wonderful friendships with them. Kim's Cafe is one of them. She's going to be cooking and catering our events. So thank you to Kim. But it's awesome. So we can't wait to really come together again and bring memories back and really together have a little good time. I'm going to be opening up singing, and then Jeff Norris is going to take it away. And then, of course, we have Jim and Kevin. And I think her name is Cynthia is the other sponsor. And you can look on our sponsor page for their details, for their information to get them, learn more about them. But oh, you can also go to our website. So with that being said, I really want to open the floor and I really want to welcome Jim and Kevin. And before I forget, our co-host Ralph, who is on the West Coast, everybody knows it takes a little time to get up and have his cup of coffee and join us. But he'll be here in a few minutes, I promise. I think he just tried to pop in, but he didn't make it. So Jim, Kevin, thank you. Oh, by the way, Kevin, we're going to go to you first. Congratulations on your wedding of 2 weeks that you've been married. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yay. So how long what's your wife's name?
Ashley.
Ashley. I met Ashley, right? Because I met both of you at one of Diane's her annual event, which is coming up this coming Thursday. Are you both going to be there?
Wednesday, yes.
Oh, it's Wednesday? I think it's the 14th. Isn't it the 14th? I don't even know.
What day is today? Yeah.
Is the 14th Wednesday? I have no idea. But we'll check it out in a little bit. But you're both going, right?
Yes.
You're both going?
I'll be
Good.
I should be there.
Good. So Kevin, tell us, we gotta start out with you. So tell us a little bit about your romance with your wife and how you met and how long you were dating, and tell us a little bit more about your honeymoon, because it sounded incredible.
Sure. So we met about 7.5, 8 years ago at a charity event for actually congenital heart disease. We both had a mutual friend, and she was a sponsor of the event, and it was a walk, and we both were there. I met her there. I was kind of nervous talking to her, so nothing really happened that day. And then a few weeks later, I actually reached out to her, and she actually wouldn't go on a date with me for 2 weeks, and she put it off to do CKO kickboxing with her friend. So I had to kind of chase, and obviously we went out on a date, and the rest is history. So we've been together for almost 8 years, and got married a few weeks ago, and couldn't be happier.
Wow, to do 8 years. That's a wonderful courtship.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, congratulations,
Thank
and
you.
tell us a little bit about your honeymoon again, because I know you were telling Jim
So went to
Zoom green room.
I thought it was Antigua, but everyone says Antigua. So it was amazing. I never been to an island like that before. The people there were so nice. Every activity we did was either right next to the water or on the water. Nothing ever felt real there. And the food was amazing. I didn't want to leave, but obviously, you know, can't afford to stay there forever. So it was
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the joys of life, you know, got to capture them.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so, welcome, Ralph.
Hey,
Good
good
morning. We
morning.
should
Sorry
say,
about being
we
late.
should say good morning to you because it's really morning in where you are. Where are you
Oh
from?
yeah, I'm in Oregon,
Oregon. That's right. That's right. So
so
3 hours.
I'm 5:30 in the morning. I have to get up for this.
That's okay. And I was sharing with Jim and Kevin the wonderful work you're doing on Stroke Warrior Radio. So please tune into Stroke Warrior Radio. Ralph, the last time we spoke, it's over 40 countries that it was streaming on. Is that still the number, Jim? Ralph?
Now we're up to 54.
54 countries. So you're
Yeah,
going to be touching 54 countries with this podcast. So
yep.
yeah, thank you,
It's,
Ralph. Thank you.
of course.
We'll let you all share a little bit, but I want to let Jim speak a little bit. So Jim, you could start it off by sharing a little bit about your business, but I do want to share what I said initially is the tie between this show and Jim and Kevin, because I'm going to let them tell the story, but they both have back histories that really make their work very personal. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And I'm going to let Jim take it away, and I'm going to let Kevin feed in on that. So Jim, tell us a little bit how you began your career and why you began it.
Yeah, so it was quite a journey. So I grew up in Bayonne, New Jersey. And by the time I was about 14, I had probably lost my grandparents, my dad, and we have a pretty small family. So I always gravitated to people older than me. And they weren't typically family members, just to gain their knowledge of life experiences. So then I progressed in my career, worked in the financial service industry for a little over 25 years. But I always felt something was missing. So I started doing volunteer work in Hell's Kitchen in Midtown Manhattan, doing some, companionship, taking people, running errands, things like that. And I started liking my volunteer work more than my career. So I took a year off and I became an aide.
Wow.
And that really was the impetus to start this business, because I was getting so much back from the people I was quote unquote helping. They were really helping me. So we developed this philosophy called care partnership. In order to give the best care, you got to receive it first. So when we started this business 6 years ago, that was really my philosophy. And whoever we hire, whether in the office or obviously the home health aides, that they have to have that compassion and that view, because to me, this is God's work. We spend the most amount of time with a client, or if you want to say patient. I see healthcare as like a pyramid. The doctors spend the least amount of time, get paid the most, then the nurses, then therapists, and then the home health aides really probably get paid the least amount, but do typically spend the most amount of time with people. And it's important to make that connection, because the clinical aspect is very important, but the psychological aspect is at least equally as important, because as one ages, you typically lose things in life. You lose people, you lose some independence. So it's important just to try to appreciate that and shed light on people's lives by the work we do. And we have the other philosophy we have is we want our clients to do as much as possible for themselves. It's
Right.
Our tagline is helping others help themselves, because you don't want to come in and just do things for people. It really, I think, is a detriment to your self-esteem if just somebody is doing things. When you can participate in your own care, you feel like a little bit more active. So we try to make sure that as much as possible, we do that. So we do assistance with all the hygiene aspects, what they call activities of daily living. But equally as important, we provide companionship.
Wow, that's incredible. And you're right, when you try to empower somebody, it kind of makes them feel valuable. right? So you try to, because I know I can only speak from my stroke experience. And actually, when I was an ambassador for Valley Hospital, and Ralph, you could feed into this. When I was an ambassador for Valley Hospital, you know, one of the things that we spoke about was, you know, they can't say to the patient that you really have to do it. We'll be here to support you, but you really have to do it. If you want to get better, you have to put the energy in. You have to put the drive in, you know. And it so I, you know, I was their example of, if you want to, not everybody can recover like Ralph and I have, but to give them some hope, they needed to understand that they needed to do the work as well. So, and I'm sure, and I know you guys do it with such empathy and compassion and love, and to kind of, like Dominic Cortellessa, he worked with me. He fed me little pieces of information to be able to understand what I had to do and how to recover, you know. So it's not, it's this big long thing. And you're right that the healthcare is the who was it, the home care, they're the ones that have to do the work every day with them, because they spend the most amount of time with them. So it's incredible work that you're doing, Jim, and I love your philosophies, you know, and that comes from your life, your experience, and you're, I heard, aside from Diane, you know, I know we have a joint client, that not client, but someone that I know that was a client of yours, and they raved about you, and they said that they were so happy with the healthcare that you gave to them. So thank you so much for all you're doing for everybody. It's a lot of work, and it's done with love. So thank you.
Yeah,
Ralph, do you wanna, yeah.
yeah, I think the home care is one of those unsung hero things. I've gotten through the radio, I've gotten to learn a lot more about what you guys do. And it is pretty amazing how you motivate and support the people. Because frankly, you know, my early stroke was very stagnant. Recovery was very stagnant. So, and then I got some home care people that believed in me. You know, we didn't have much knowledge or cognitive ability early on to understand what was happening to us. So what you guys do is pretty darn amazing to me. I mean, luckily it got me motivated, and I became my own self-advocate, and they taught me how to be myself again. So, you know, I know some are not as good as others, but you know, I found out too that we can go out to interview those people and fire whoever we want because we're the captain of our own team. So, you know, I found that the home care people helped me to learn that. So it's
And
amazing what you guys do.
and this is, you know, this is why we do what we do, right? This is why we bring information and education to everybody, because they'll know of you, Jim, they'll know of you, Kevin. If the situation arises, they don't have to go out. They should do their pre-work, you know, prepare in life. It's not, I think one of the things that people are most afraid of is if they talk about it, if they, you know, if they think about it, if they, you know, do the research on something, something bad is going to happen. Well, the truth is that as we age, something will happen eventually. And I mean, I don't think there's anybody that's lived a health-free, you know, was that the right word? The health-free, you know, situation in their lives. You know, I don't think that has ever happened. So, you know, you have to just be prepared. And that's why we do what we do, to share with everybody. So Kevin, tell us a little bit about how you, you know, molded into this world.
Sure. So, I got into the therapy world before I was a therapist. You know, I was still going to school and everything, but I did personal training. for like 10 years. I had my own thing. I used to rent space out in a gym. So I was set on that for quite a while. However, I have an older brother who's has autism, or what they say now is on the spectrum. So I've kind of always been involved in different types of care. Just seeing through him, me providing care as more of the, even though he's my older brother, I feel like I'm his older brother and caring. And growing up obviously definitely wasn't easy, especially for him. But my family has been so great in support, and luckily, I have other family members in the medical field, so he's always gotten the care, and therapy was definitely crucial at an early age for him to develop, those functional needs and sensory awareness to help mold him into who he is today. And I got to see that firsthand and really learn and understand, the impact of therapy and how it can improve people's lives. So, growing up, I knew I always wanted to help out people. And I feel like I've always had that type of personality to do that and motivate. So, uh, for me, uh, when I was a personal trainer, it was, working with people who want to lose weight, right? Who were discouraged on how they looked, how they felt. And, I was always that motivator, like, you can change with the right nutrition, the right activity. And then that kind of translated into therapy. It was, and I've worked with all sorts of different conditions. You name it, I've worked with every type of uh, diagnosis.
Mm,
And yeah, so I mean, that's kind of how I came into this molding, through my brother, and just, kind of continued my ways in education. So I am an occupational therapist. Um, but as far as my company, Kinetic Home Therapy, we do provide physical, occupational, and speech therapy. So, I always see it as, anytime you go into a home, right? You picture it as a puzzle, right? All the pieces are all over the place, right? If they're just coming home from the hospital too, you have so many different factors, right? They're moving around from the hospital, they're home, you had different people coming in. So, when we go into the homes, we're trying to put the pieces of the puzzle back together, right? Whether it's the occupational therapist, working on functional tasks, you have the physical therapy working on more of the mobility, or, if they do need the speech, right? Now you're doing communication and the cognitive assessment. So, we're our goal is to take all those pieces and try to make them as whole as they can be and as independent as possible from where they left off. So, um, for me, I tell our therapists, everybody's qualified, right? You have a therapy license, you did the work, you have the knowledge, right? The exams are very hard. Not everyone passes the first time. You have
yeah,
the educational background, right? So, we're very picky on who we hire, because to me, the biggest thing is, are you a good communicator? Do you have the personality to connect with people? Because, some people, some clients, when you walk right in, right, especially after a stroke or, anything, it's debilitating, right? They don't have the same function that they had. What can we do to impact their lives and motivate them to become that person they once were, right? And I see it all the time. And I tell our clients, like, every day is a new day to become better.
yeah,
It's not going to be easy. Some days are going to be better than others, but you have a chance at improving yourself, right? And obviously the severities are different, right? You're working with different situations, but at the end of the day, like, if they know they're trying their best on to improve, you're going to make a huge impact. And I've seen tremendous results in different conditions and on in our recovery as well. So the
yeah,
biggest thing, like I said, is you know when we hire, we want someone who's friendly, obviously, a big communicator, and really making that connection with people. Because I'm sure Jim can also vouch for this. You know, uh, some people, when they are in the home, especially like, the geriatrics, like, they might not have the family support, so there is a lot of isolation. And we could be those people walking in that, we're that friendly face and making those social connections as well. It does wonders, that they have that support and someone in their life that, wants them to do better and improve and make their day better. So
I was thinking, oh, Ralph, before I forget, just hold on one second. Like I've learned that each situation is so different. Each person is so different. Each world is so different that you're entering into. How do you guys kind of try to understand that before, um, placing him in or sending somebody to their home or doing any home health care? Like, do you kind of like try to match them with the person that's going to them, Jim, Kevin?
Yeah, I heard recently a new terminology for me. So there's the golden rule, which is treat others as you want to be treated. And there's something called the platinum rule, treat others as they want to be treated. So when
Yes.
we come in to do the initial assessment, we're looking at their hobbies, what they used to be able to do, maybe no longer can do, and seeing like who the person is, not who the disease is or whatever affliction they have, but really who that person is. And that takes time. So we have a series of questions we ask, but we're also looking at eye contact when we're doing the assessment. And then when we come back and look to see who we think is going to be a good fit, we're really looking at personality first and then clinical stuff second.
Right.
Everybody is a certified aide by the Board of Nursing, and we have nurses that train them forever if there's a gap in experience with something in particular. But I'm really looking at the personality because that makes it work or not. You could be clinically proficient, but if you're not, and even what just Kevin just said, if you're not engaging and you're not really in it for the right reasons, then you probably should be doing something else.
Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is matching the person, going to the homes. Obviously, everyone has a different type of personality, and we strive on doing those assessments and getting a feel for how the client is beforehand, so that we can make sure that they're getting the right care they need and the right person to motivate them. Yeah, so we usually do an intake form, phone call and intake form prior to going in to get a sense of who they are. And then even when the therapist is there, I tell them, obviously we always assess the place, what they need and everything. But, I always say when you walk in, look at the pictures they have, look at, what, do they do any reading? Do they, what do they like? What are their hobbies? And how can we tie that into our therapy, right? Because
Right.
the therapy world, especially in the homes, you can be so creative. I mean, it's endless on different tasks for both the PT and the OT. So, I always say, like, look, scan the room. What do you see? Talk about what they've done in the past, and try and connect those pieces.
Yeah. Yeah. Ralph, I'm sorry. You wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, it was kind of two-form. You both mentioned assessments. One of the difficulties I guess I had was I was by myself. I didn't have a care partner or wife or anything like that at the time of my stroke. How do you educate people that because I'm having a little struggle here. Sorry, stroke brain, but the cognitive difficulties that they have in the beginning can be that I had in the beginning, can be very difficult in understanding what the heck's going on and what you guys are really asking. How do you address that? I mean, do you try and make it fun? Do you try and make it, there's so many ways that I lost information. There's so many things that they didn't tell me. Um, how do you address all that?
Sure. I guess I'll go first. So, I mean, it's a little different, I would say, by the time, like, I guess it depends on when you had this, obviously when you had the stroke, but on the catering to whatever hospital you're in or subacute, because you know from what I know, they should address these things like when you're there, right? But
Agreed.
stuff happens, right? I mean, some of these places they're so busy. You do your stuff, you go home, and then you're left at blank, like what's going on. So, when we come in, we really try to explain what's going on, and we listen to you first. we try to, when we give out information sheets as well with visuals and everything like that, and we try to go over everything that you have questions on, and try to make it as simple as possible. And yeah, you're right. Like, um, majority of the time when somebody does have a stroke, they have those cognitive deficits, and maybe more of like a brain fog, right?
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
It's definitely common. So we try to explain things as easy as possible, either by giving examples that you can relate to, giving visuals, and any type of education, out there to really help you understand like what's going on, and kind of set up a plan on how we can move forward.
it
I want
is.
to,
Go
Ralph,
ahead.
I just want to intervene because this is really an important moment. Um, I believe, and Ralph and I've spoken of this before, you need to set yourself up with an advocate that before you have something happen in your life. But that being said, someone like Jim and Kevin are trustworthy because there are people out in the world who will take advantage of Ralph's situation, who, he was by himself. He didn't have anybody to defend him or to think clearly for him, so it's very sad that the world is like that. But like I said, you should set up an advocate for yourself, or at least try to learn before you have, like we said before, that Jim and Kevin, and there are many others out there, but set yourselves up, because you gotta be prepared for the what ifs in life. So sorry, because I wouldn't remember to say that when Ralph, you wanted to say something, and Jim could.
Yeah, I, I guess I'm asking, there is a difference between dealing with an individual and dealing with a partner, a care partner, and a stroke or TBI survivor. Um, and one of the things that I was, I moved from being by myself 3 months later to being with family. Then I found a organization called Rocky Mountain Healthcare PACE. Um, and it was a one location, one stop shop for therapies and doctors and everything. And that's where I found out about home care. So I think a lot of what I'm asking about too is um, raising awareness on what you all actually do. Because to me today, the only dumb question was the one I didn't ask. So you have to we have to raise awareness. I didn't know about healthcare or home care until I got to the PACE organization, because that was part of their deal. It was a whole thing in one location. Um, how do you raise awareness for some of the home care in particular, and on the occupational therapy? Um, I didn't know about speech therapy until 6.5 years later.
Wow.
No, I didn't realize I needed it because I did a weird chewing thing and swallowing thing. So I got therapy at 7 years for that. How do you raise awareness about what you guys do a little bit more? For example, another example is OT. I didn't know you had mental health training as well. So there's so many facets to it. And how do you promote it and get people to understand, you know what, this is good for you. This is going to help you. You said you get personal. I got personal with the people after several years. I got personal with the people and I started asking them, how come you're doing this? What's got you started in this? Those kind of things, to get to know them better, so that I'm not sitting there on a bike while a therapist walks away just because he's following protocol and doing a checklist.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Jim, why don't
how do
you
you,
feed into that a little bit?
Yeah, there's so many layers to what Ralph is mentioning. So to the previous question of um, how do you help somebody who is alone and does not have an advocate? The one thing I learned when I first started in this business is you got to connect with people. So Kevin and I refer to each other. I know geriatric case managers, which are like social workers that, can be advocates. So, what I like about what we do is we stay in our own lane in home care, but we know a lot of people in the healthcare spectrum, let's call it. So although something may not be part of our discipline, we know who the good players are out there to refer to. And if somebody's coming out of a rehab, we do the assessment in the subacute rehab before they get discharged. So we know what their medical history is. So if there's particular exercises that they're doing that they're going to do at home, if we can help a little bit doing that, we need to know that background. If they need to be transferred in a certain way, we'll sit down with the social worker or the PT at the subacute and learn the particular things that they are teaching their patient, which is going to become our client. So that's like really important to not just know your business, but know who to refer to. And the building awareness can develop from that. So,
Right.
Kevin and I, we know mutual people. Diane Bromberg Stern is a perfect example of that.
Yeah,
She's an
I was thinking
advocate
that.
for the elder community, and she knows a lot of people. She has a lot of events. We do educational events.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's tied to something fun like bingo, and we'll do that. We've done panel discussions in libraries. So there's a lot of different organizations specific to each community. So out in Oregon is going to be different than New Jersey, but there's other organizations that meet regularly in libraries or other public places where we'll be part of a presentation and just do an outreach. Then there's social media. As the baby boomers are aging, the baby boomers are probably more technologically savvy than the greatest generation before them. So that's easier to do outreach, whether it's Facebook or whatever social media that people
Instagram.
are using. And then it's the children sometimes of the population. So there's the cognitive thing that could be the temporary thing going through a stroke. But obviously for us, a lot of the cognitive issues are affected by dementia, which aren't going to get better. So,
Yeah.
so we're very familiar with dealing with all of that. I just have to do a plug. Next month, September 14th, is the Anti-Alzheimer's Walk, which we're chairing. So that is the biggest fundraiser for the Alzheimer's Association. So we're very involved in that as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, and the other is, I'm talking about being alone, but with the care partners, they need to be involved in that as well, because a lot of times a stroke or TBI survivor or their family is going to say, "Oh, we'll take care of them." They don't understand the mental health aspect of it, of the burnout and that kind of thing. So they need that assistance as well to not,
100%.
what I'm saying.
100. We have a situation where this woman's husband has pretty advanced dementia, and he loved working. But she sees him day in, day out. So it's very frustrating for her because he looks the same, but he's not acting the same. So what we do is a few hours, 2 times a week, we take him to a donut shop, which is his favorite donut shop. He gets dressed, he gets his suitcase, his briefcase, and we go to work. And he's happy doing that. And then he comes back home and he's a little bit more relaxed than he used to be. So that's just one specific example of a situation where, a family member seeing somebody day in and day out doesn't understand that, this is, there's some role playing involved, and, this takes a lot of patience. And when it's 24/7, it's really hard to have patience.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, I know you guys and Diana specifically, geared towards the older community. We said this in the intro, and I don't know if Ralph was there, but but illnesses happen to young people as well, like myself at 26. How old were you, Ralph, 7 years ago? How old?
I was 59 at the time.
59. So it's hard. It's hard. I and Ralph, and I'm sure both of you can understand how traumatic it is, how traumatic it is. My life changed. It completely changed on that day. Thank God I was so driven and focused that I was able to recover. And I know that was, and I'll speak, in my own world, that was God's way to say, okay, but don't forget, you gotta support those. You gotta make them understand. You have to do this. You have to, you have to educate people. You have to. So yeah, God left me here for, since the age of 26, but it's not without, responsibilities and really to bring awareness to the fact that, that you have to, first of all, I believe you have to have love around you. Love helps in any, in recovery. And that doesn't mean that all recoveries are going to be the same. Like I said before, some recoveries are going to be just having that person there, and some recoveries are going to be fully. But it's really, life is a gift. Life is a gift. I had a small example yesterday, and I don't want to cry because it was really hard. I was with my granddaughter for the first time yesterday when she had her seizure. I was by myself. So, and I was reminded of the precious value of life, and it's really, and this is just a blessing to have this show today, because it really, it reminds me that this is what I got to do. I got to bring awareness to healthcare and to home care and to physical therapy. My granddaughter goes to physical therapy and occupational therapy and all that on Saturdays, and she gets it in school. But it's just, it's very, very, very surreal. That's the word I'll use. It's very surreal to be reminded from your grandchild. Kevin, how do you talk to us about the occupational therapy, and how, like, what is a specific thing that you do when you go there? I just heard Jim, and I heard you say you do go the extra mile. You do try to understand it, because it's almost like when I sing, right? When I used to go into the rehabs to sing, it took me a half an hour to get them to understand I was there. I did fun, live, energetic music for the first half an hour, because I needed to grab their attention and get them in the mindset that I'm there and I want to sing for them. And then I could start to talk to them and build a relationship with them. And the truth was that it took me like going back there for 4, 5, 6 times to understand where it was coming from. And I think it's along the same fashion as both of you, because you have to, it takes a long time. It takes time to get to trust that person, I think in life, you have to trust somebody, you have to earn somebody's trust. So what do you specifically do for your occupational therapy?
Sure. So, when we go into the home, first off, we want to know, a little bit about them, family history, and usually like medical history and all that we already have. Kind of like what they're struggling with, physically and mentally. And then we kind of want to know, from an OT perspective, from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed, what they're doing, and we'll do assessments, obviously depending on the severity of whatever they have, you know, from how they get out of the bed, uh, you know, toileting, bathing, how, what type of assistance they need. And obviously with occupational therapy, we're more focused on function. So, how are they eating? How is their fine motor? How's their hand grip? Dressing is a big one, right? Obviously, I know Jim mentioned with the activities of daily living, that's definitely something we work on. How's their balance? Even reaching for a cup on the shelf, right? It's basic, simple tasks that, when you do have a stroke, or you do have stuff happen to you, the simple things obviously aren't simple anymore, right? Um, and some other things we try to work on, and from an OT's perspective, is management of, who's doing your mail, who's doing, finances, like stuff like that. How can we organize you as well and help you out in those aspects? That's another scope of practice that OT does that many people might not know. Even organizing medication, right? That's another thing. And any type of function, or I always say like more small tasks, the micro aspect of things, is something we try to work on and create a baseline for them to show them, this is where we are, this is where we want to go. And after usually about, I would say every 2 weeks or so, we kind of reassess and try to figure out, okay, have we improved from the baseline, even if they're small wins, right? This way we can kind of remind them, that you have progressed from where you've become, and we have to keep going, right? Because we can't stay stagnant on where we are. We have to show some sort of progression. And it's a good feeling when you do make those small wins, even if they're a little bit, but it's better than where we started, right? So, I would say every 2 weeks we really kind of reassess our baseline, and if we have to change our goals or improve them even more, we'll do that. And our goal is, like I said, for them to become as independent as they can, to the point where we can improve maybe from the home to the community, right? If they were an active person where they were going out in the community, we want them to be able to get to that point again. So, every aspect of their life, from like I said, the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed, we want to know everything. So
Right.
from an OT, I try to break that down, from the macro, and really try to condense it into that micro aspect of every single task they've done, and how we can improve on that.
Yeah,
Well,
my
I
daughter
was gonna
told me,
say, I was gonna say that you always talk about your milestones. So talk about that.
oh, me?
Yeah, you always
Yeah,
talked about those
I
little
was I
little
was just going to
wins.
mention my daughter at 6 months said to me, "Dad, your handwriting's always been so beautiful. What the hell happened?" And I found out that an occupational therapist can help you with that. And I didn't know that. I mean, it's the simplest things that help us achieve those little victories every day that make us better and improve on our recovery. It's again, it's the dumb question you haven't asked. And the home care, they did this too. It was like, okay, how can I do this better? Ask all the simplest things can be the biggest victories that you can have. My handwriting today is just as beautiful as it was in Sacred Heart and St. Pius X and Piscataway. So I mean, it, it's it's something that just slays me to this day that all those little things both of you guys do. I mean, you've got the team concept together, that you talk to each other and you work with each other on referrals. You got the educational part, which is so lacking, was so lacking in my recovery, is that little educational part of here's a better way that I can show you to cook. They gave me a stool so that I can cook because I love cooking. I'm writing an Italian cookbook. So I have a stool to sit at the counter and at the stove to cook, and the home care helped me and taught me that, not learned me that, taught me that. So, there's all those little things. And I appreciate what you guys are saying because a lot of the time I didn't get it. Um, and that's what I'm trying to promote too is those ask those silly questions. You guys, from the sounds of it, and I don't know you personally, but from the sounds of it, you believe in that minutia that here this is, and it makes so much difference in my mind. All those little things made so much difference in other things as well. And I think that's one of the things that you guys are portraying here anyway. I think it is. Um, and I appreciate that because it wasn't done for me in a lot of places.
And what I would reiterate is that, I know them not personally. I've only met you a number of times, but I know Diane. Diane is the group leader. And I know that she has a passion for everybody and a passion for making a difference. And if you're on her team, and from the stories and the bios that I've read from both of you, you're doing your work, and it's not for the money, it's for the service, it's to help people, it's to make people's lives so much better. And I wish the world had so many more of both of you. I know Diane's team is incredible. I know that every single one of them thinks that way and works that way. Otherwise, we wouldn't be on Diane's team. But I can't help reiterate all the time that do your work prior to something happening, or set yourself an advocate so that they could help you with that. Ralph was by himself for the first few months. Good thing Ralph could at least process and think, but sometimes I always tell everybody I'm trying to figure out like how to get people from that initial stroke phase where your brain is just combobulated, and until you defragment it, how do you because the doctors can come in and say to you, you got to do this, and you don't understand it. So how do we get them to get to that point? And I know it takes time, and I know it takes people like Jim and Kevin to support you to get to that place. And I love the fact that you're both you don't like take every single case as a textbook. You try to figure out the ways to make it work for them, and that is just a gift. That's a gift. Then it comes from your experiences. We only have about 9 minutes left, but I do want to talk about something that's really important, and then I want you to share how they can get in touch with you. But I mean, although we don't want to talk about it, how do you pay for through both of you? What kind of services, what kind of finances do they need, and do you take insurance? And what if a person doesn't have insurance? So who just spoke? I don't know. Jim, Kevin, you can go first, please.
Okay. Yeah, so we do both insurance and private pay. We do take Medicare. We do take some of the Medicare Advantage plans as well. We always verify the insurance before we go in. Obviously, that's important for us financially, and just for the patient as well. Let them know what their benefits are,
Yep.
so there's no confusion or anything like that. If the insurance doesn't work out and they do want to pay privately, we do have different packages that we offer. So we try to work with the client, especially with their financial situation. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, we do take most insurances and private pay as well. So
That's good. Thank you. Why don't you share with everybody how they could reach out to you just while I have you?
yeah.
So
So we have our website, www.kinetichometherapy.com. You can fill out an intake form on there, and it'll get sent right to us. We have our office line at 973-320-7317. And then our other our other email is info@kinetichometherapy.com. So there's various ways to get in touch with us. But yeah, I mean, any of the communication lines, we're pretty quick at responding, and we're also pretty quick at evaluating as well. As long as we have all the information, the insurance checks out, we have a pretty quick turnaround time. We do all the back end work as well, collect the prescriptions from the doctor's offices. We try to make it as easy as possible so that the client doesn't have to do anything, because the problem is sometimes there's miscommunication with doctor's offices and for them to get the scripts as well. So we try to do all of that. And I tell everybody, all you have to do is open the door, and we'll take care of the rest.
wow, that's incredible. Thank you, Kevin. Jim?
Yeah, unfortunately, medical insurance does not cover what we do because we're considered non-medical. So the avenues other than private pay would be long-term care insurance. I highly recommend people look into that.
Which I have.
Yeah, it's really it's important, and you can tie that to a life insurance plan, or it can be a standalone plan. And then a long-term care insurance could provide funds for in-home care, or if you go to assisted living or skilled nursing at some point, it would cover that. Then there's veterans benefits that do cover what we do.
Oh.
There's two forms of veterans benefits. You have to have at least 1 day of active duty during wartime. And in New Jersey specifically, there's firefighter benefits that cover what we do. There's other ways to pay for it to raise funds, not as popular, but it's still viable in certain options. And that includes reverse mortgages as well. Again, it depends on the right situation, and that may fit what you do. We can be reached
Do you
at.
have sorry to interrupt. Do you have the counselors to help them with that?
Yes. Yep. We can
Okay.
help unlock your long-term care insurance benefits. We can get paid directly from long-term care insurance. We can also help unlock the veterans benefits.
Wonderful.
I got to do a show on long-term care.
Yeah,
And-
really.
And what I want to understand is, you and this is just, I'm just thinking out loud, that long-term care can be purchased at a young age, right? It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Actually,
it
the
can
younger you are, the cheaper it is, because your lifespan is going to be longer than somebody who's a little bit older. So the
Right.
premiums, the insurance company will collect it so they can reduce the premiums.
And
That's
how do
very-
people find out about you, Jim?
You can go online, applauseHomeCare.com. You can call our office, 201-326-8051. And we also have the email similar to what Kevin said, info@applauseHomeCare.com. And we're on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and on LinkedIn.
And if
Awesome.
you know, you can always reach out to me. You can always reach out to Diane. You can always reach out onto social media that you guys have, because I'm sure you have links from the social media, from Facebook, from Instagram, that, you know, you can message you guys. Am I correct in my mind thought, or you get all that stuff? Kevin and Jim?
Yep.
You get that? Okay. Okay. So we only have a few minutes left, but I always like to leave the show with an inspirational thought pattern with everybody. You know, what they could do for today is, you know, what wonderful things they could do today, and, you know, and how you're helping them. So I'm going to let you think about it for 2 seconds, but Ralph, you go first, because you have such a positive attitude on life, you know, and you always have this wonderful upbeat personality, and in your information is really helping the world with the stroke of luck, not the stroke of luck, the Stroke Warrior Radio. So just give us a little blurb on your Stroke Warrior Radio, and the final thoughts for the day, and then you're going to also be my co-host on the second show as well. So go ahead.
StrokeWarriorRadio.com. I hit the listen button. We have shows all day interviewing survivors, therapists, everything. And what we're trying to do is educate, motivate, and support people to understand that it's a choice to be a stroke survivor or a stroke warrior.
Yep.
That's my blurb.
Good. So, Kevin, why don't you give us the final thoughts on today's show?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys having us on. Means a lot to represent, you know, my company, and kind of give some detail about what we do, and, you know, how we can help others who are in need. You know, I guess my own personal thing is, you know, every day is a new day. You got to be your own motivator, because nobody else is going to do it for you. You know, I've always lived by that. And, you know, if you're ever feeling down or in the dumps, you know, try to find a way to bring yourself back up, whether it's, you know, going outside, going for a walk, you know, doing things you enjoy, because, you know, life is too short not to be happy. And you gotta really keep that mindset, because it's so easy to, you know, be down in the dumps and not want to do anything. And, you know, if we're trying to help others, and we have that type of, you know, feeling that we're not, you know, we're not happy, we're not doing our best, well, it's going to translate to what they're doing. So, you know, I always try to keep a positive mindset, and, you know, stay motivated, and take like I said, the small wins every day, you know, that's the best thing you can do for yourself. So
Like Kevin just got married. Yeah, that's his recent small win. To his beautiful wife, his beautiful wife. Jim?
Yeah, I think one of the most powerful tools that us humans have is our resiliency, to be able to bounce back. And the way I try to approach every day is a happy day if you want it to be. So today's Happy Sunday. Doesn't have to, I think life mainly is lived in the daily grind. You have holidays and celebrations, but really the day to day is where we live, and you have to lean into that, so to speak. So every day there's somebody who's crying, but every day there's somebody who's laughing. So you want to be the ones that make the people crying laugh.
Wow, that's perfect. Perfect.
Wow.
I know you don't get this, but it's a perfect scenario because you're sponsoring the comedy show. Yourself and Kevin and Cynthia, and you were so grateful for you once again. And if you want to purchase tickets to our comedy show, please go to our website, RenéMarie Language of Love .org, and you can find out more information, or you can look on the Facebook and streaming. But we're so grateful for both of you for the work you're doing. We are, and Diane is a blessing to us and to everybody in the world, and we're really we just love the help that we're bringing to people. So we hope that you'll have a blessed day, a wonderful Sunday, have a stroke of luck in your life. We always blow kisses if it's okay, if you feel comfortable, and stay tuned for our second show. It's going to be incredible with Julie and Seraphin, I believe his name is. He's also a Diane Bromberg group member, and Ralph is coming back to co-host with us, so stay tuned for another great show. But until then, have a stroke of luck in your life, and we'll see you in a few minutes on 3. 1, 2, 3.